This is the Apache gunship, the most famous attack helicopter in the world. Right now, it's doing 100 knots straight toward the coast so history doesn't repeat itself. For 17 straight days in 2023, drones nobody could identify drifted over Langley Air Force Base, home to America's F-22 stealth fighters. The most advanced Air Force on Earth couldn't stop them, and never even learned whose they were. Then they slipped back out over the Atlantic and vanished. Now, the Apache is going to make sure this next wave doesn't even get close. At 50 feet over gray water, the gunner turns his head a few degrees left. The 30mm cannon under the nose snaps the same way. Wired to his skull, aiming wherever he looks. He drops the crosshair on the drone. 800 meters out and closing. He squeezes. Third burst, and the first contact comes apart into carbon fiber and tumbling battery cells. The rounds find it just past 600 out, a hair under a full second of travel time. But that was one. 13 more are still out there, breaking into the dark in every direction. Each one runs its own escape, none of them where you'd expect. Watch the wreckage fall. 1 second the drone was knifing toward the beach at 100 knots. The next, it's confetti, raining down toward the Atlantic in pieces. That's the M230 machine gun, and the way it aims is the strange part. The cockpit reads where the gunner's head points. 60 times a second, motors whip the gun around to match. He doesn't aim with his hands, he aims with his face, and the gun follows with him. The barrel swings 86 degrees left and right, 11 up, 60 down. Wherever he looks, the gun is already looking too. The whole system tracks his head 60 times every second. It slews the barrel to match in a heartbeat, well, under a tenth of that, faster than he can consciously decide to look somewhere. All of it runs off 4 pounds of gear strapped to his head. They call it the IHADS, the Integrated Helmet and Display Sighting System. A single glass monocle, about an inch across, sits over his right eye. The aircraft throws his flight data, his targeting symbols, and a crosshair onto that little screen. One eye on the real world, one eye on a computer overlay, both at once, all the time. But slaving a gun to a man's head is the easy half. The rounds still have to land where he's looking, and that's the hard half. Everything is moving. The helicopter, the drone, the air in between. The instant a round leaves the barrel, wind shoves it sideways and gravity starts to drag it down. So a fire control computer runs all that math for him. Aircraft speed, target motion, crosswind, bullet drop, even how thin the air is. It crunches every bit of it in a fraction of a second. Then it nudges the gun's aim. A hair off where his eyes point, it leads the target. Rounds and drone arrive at one patch of sky in the same instant. The gun spits 625 rounds a minute, each bullet leaving the barrel near 2,600 feet per second, better than 3 times the speed of sound. A drone doing 100 knots never hears it coming, because the sound can't reach the rounds. The first warning is the impact, and by then it's already too late. At 800 meters, the rounds need roughly a second to arrive. At 2,000, the ragged edge of the gun's reach, closer to 2.5. The gunner isn't shooting at where the drone is. He's shooting at where it will be when the rounds get there. So how does he find a drone in the first place? The thing is small, dark, and skimming a black sea that swallows it whole. The answer rides in a turret bulging under the Apache's nose. They call it the TADS, the Target Acquisition and Designation Site. It pairs a daylight camera with a thermal one. The thermal reads heat instead of light. On the gunner's screen, the ocean is a flat, cold sheet. The drone is a hot smear crawling across it at 100 knots. The drone's little engine glows maybe 40 or 50 degrees above the seawater around it. A coal on a snowbank. Impossible to miss once you know what the coal looks like. It doesn't matter that there's no moon. Doesn't matter that the thing is painted to hide either. Heat is heat, and the turret sees it from miles out. But seeing it and naming it are two different problems. A warm smear could be a drone. It could be a crawler's exhaust stack. It could be a swimmer or a buoy or a patch of sun-warmed water. The gunner reads the shape, the speed, the heat signature, then decides in a second or two which smears are threats and which are somebody's bad night fishing. Get it wrong, and you fired on a fisherman. These drones don't make it easy. They aren't wandering around lost. They jink hard, snapping through pre-programmed evasion patterns built to beat exactly this kind of targeting computer. A drone that flies straight is easy to lead. A drone that breaks unpredictably is one the computer can't solve. So these drones break at random, on a schedule someone wrote in advance. That wasn't panic, that was design. Whoever did this studied how the targeting works. Then they built a counter to it. Nobody buys this at Best Buy. Somebody with money and a plan put military-grade hardware into restricted airspace. Then the second crew aircraft calls Sunrise over the net. That's pilot shorthand for descending to engage. That one word is doing a lot of work. Two helicopters hunting one swarm can drift onto the same target, or worse, onto each other. Blue on blue, friendly fire. So one aircraft owns the high block, the other owns the low. They trade the word that keeps them stacked instead of crashed. In the background, the sea is crowded, a container ship plodding north, a pair of trawlers, a sailboat worth more than the helicopter hunting overhead. Every burst has to account for them. Miss the drone, and those 30mm rounds keep flying, another 3 miles before they touch the water. One stray round through a civilian hull is an international incident and the end of a career. The math isn't just ballistics, it's lawyers. And the targets know it. They run the gaps in the traffic on purpose, tucking in close to the trawlers and the container ship. It dares the crew to take a shot that could overfly into a hull. It's the oldest trick a cheap attacker has against an expensive one. Hide behind the thing your enemy isn't allowed to break. The crew has to wait for clean geometry every single time while the clock and the fuel both run down. Then the screen lights up again. 8 more heat blooms break formation at once, climbing and scattering. The co-pilot's voice cuts through the static. Multiple launches, 8 fresh contacts at once, on top of the 5 still up and the 1 already down. 14 targets in a fight that started as 1. The swarm doesn't scatter like startled birds. It breaks clean, in formation, the kind of coordinated split a flight of fighters throws to beat a missile. Whoever wrote their software knew their job. Here's where ammunition turns into a budget problem. A crew can't just hose the sky. The expensive guided shots go onto the hard targets. The gun saves for anything that gives them a clean look. Every trigger pull is a decision about what's left in the magazine. Spend wrong early and the last drones walk right past you to the beach. Too eager with the missiles and you're out of them when the hard target shows up. Too stingy and an easy shot turns into a stern chase you don't have the fuel to win. Each shot is a bet on what's coming next. Picture the rails, a handful of guided missiles at 6 figures apiece, a pod of laser rockets at 30 grand each, roughly 1,200 pounds of 30mm in the magazine. That's the whole budget for a fight that just doubled in size. Burn it in the wrong order and the math turns against you fast. So the gunner brings up an APKWS rocket, a cheap Hydra 70 with a laser-seeking ring bolted around its nose. About 30 grand a shot, instead of a Hellfire's 6 figures. But here's the catch with the laser guidance. The rocket doesn't chase the laser device, it chases the reflection. A coded pattern of pulses painted onto the target and it rides that specific flicker down. Which means somebody has to hold the beam dead on a jinking drone. Meanwhile, the Apache shakes like a paint mixer. Rotor wash claws at the airframe. Picture keeping a laser pointer locked on a tennis ball from the bed of a pickup bouncing down a dirt road. Now, make the tennis ball dodge. Too far off the mark and the rocket has no reflection to chase. Too much wander on the beam and it chases the wrong patch of water entirely. The whole shot rides on one hand, holding steady against everything trying to shake it loose. And it gets worse. This drone's skin is coated with something that doesn't want to reflect anti-reflective treatment, almost certainly built to beat this exact attack. The laser return flickers out, like trying to paint a mirror that keeps running away. The gunner cranks up laser power to hold the lock, which drains the battery he might need later. Modern air combat is a power management fight as much as a shooting one. Every system pulls from the same electrical supply, and when it's gone, you fly home blind. He fires the laser at a set code, a specific number of pulses per second. The rocket homes on laser-guided weapons. That coding is the only thing keeping the one helicopter's rocket from chasing the other spot. The rocket leaves the pod with a whoosh thump, safely arming after it clears 150 meters. For 6 long seconds, an eternity at 150 knots, the gunner fights to keep the beam on a target that doesn't want to be painted. The airframe's vibration tries to shake him off it. downwash bends the beam. A gust of wind shoves the helicopter sideways, and he corrects without ever losing the lock. The rocket corkscrews on its way in. That spiral is normal. The guidance fins make tiny adjustments several times a second, each one overcorrecting just slightly. Like parallel parking by inches, the drone dives for the water. At this range, physics wins. The rocket folds into burning scrap. A flat orange flash. The thermal camera blooms white for half a second before it gutters out. 2 down, 12 still flying. The easy ones are already gone, and the 12 that are left learn from watching the first 2 come apart. Now the other crew aircraft engages with its cannon. Here's where the Apache shows off the same head-aim trick on a heavier gun. Wherever the pilot looks, the gun points. Sounds like science fiction. It's camera tracking the helmet and motors slewing the gun to match. But that loop takes time. The read, the solve, the swing. All of it eats a sliver of a second. At a 120-knot closure, that sliver is 15 meters of target movement. The drone isn't where the pilot's looking anymore, it's already somewhere else. So the pilot has to lead with his own head, looking where the drone will be, not where it is. It's backwards from every instinct you have. You look away from the thing to hit the thing. Get the lead right and the rounds and the drone meet in empty air. Get it wrong and you've sprayed the ocean where the target used to be. He settles on the third drone and squeezes. Rounds scream out in a 2-second burst, a cone of fire opening as it travels. And there's the problem. At 500 meters, that cone is spread to about 10 meters wide. The drone only has to be in the wrong slice of it to live. First burst misses clean. The drone zigged when the pilot bet on zag. Up front, the engine temperature needle creeps toward yellow. All this hard, high-power maneuvering is cooking the turboshafts past cruise limits. Push the engines too hard and they break off to cool down. Run them too soft and the target slips away. The second burst clips it at about 600 meters, sends it spinning, still flying, like winging a bird with birdshot. The Apache brakes hard to reset, G-forces mashing the crew into their seats. This time the pilot leads it more. The third burst finds center mass, 3 down. The whole exchange took maybe 9 seconds, 3 bursts, 1 hit, 11 to go, scattering across the dark like spilled marbles. The gunner up front is already calling the next 2 before the third stops falling. Here's where the Apache stops chasing one target at a time and starts hunting them all at once. A gray dome on top of the rotor mast wakes up. The APG-78 Longbow fire control radar. The camera under the nose can stare at exactly one thing. The radar sweeps the whole sky and counts. In a single scan, it picks out every drone scattered across miles of dark water. It sorts the real threats from the trawlers and the swells. Then it ranks them worst first. 11 contacts become a clean, numbered list. The radar can hold up to 128 tracks at once. It sorts them in a single sweep. Warships, from small boats, from aircraft, from drones. A crew working the camera alone can juggle maybe 4 or 5 targets in their heads before the picture falls apart. The radar does the whole sky in the time it takes to blink, and it never loses count. This is the part that matters, and it's pure history bending back on itself. The Longbow was built in the 1980s to find Soviet tanks hiding under the clutter of a European battlefield. A drone is small, but to a radar built to pull a tank out of a tree line, a drone against an empty sky is the easiest thing in the world to see. Then the radar hands its list straight to the weapons. The data link feeds the target tracks to the missiles and out to the other aircraft. The Navy, anyone in the fleet. The Apache becomes the eyes. Everything else becomes the fist. Some of those missiles can take a shot at a drone the gunner never put a camera on. They fly on a track the radar built and hand it off in a fraction of a second. That's how the next 2 drones go down. The gunner brings up a JAGM, the AGM-179, the Hellfire's smarter successor, with 2 seekers crammed into one nose. A laser seeker for when you want to pick the aim point yourself, a radar seeker for when you want to fire and forget. He picks radar. The JAGM can reach out past 8 kilometers, and the Longbow has already locked the track from standoff distance. No need to close in. No need to expose the helicopter at all. The shot goes off from 1.5 miles back. The missile climbs to a few thousand feet. Then it tips over and rides the radar track down. It watches it leave and immediately forgets it. The radar is already feeding him the next name on the list. The missile leaves the rail, climbs, and flies itself onto a drone the gunner is no longer even watching. He's already swinging to the next one. Fire and forget. 4 down. A second JAGM rides its own radar track into a 5th. 5. And here's why radar guidance is worth the money. A laser shot ties the gunner to the target the whole way down. 8, 10, 12 seconds of holding the beam steady. The whole time, the helicopter hangs in the open. Too long on the beam and a drone with teeth could turn and shoot back. Too quick to look away and the rocket loses its lock. The radar shot cuts the cord. Missile gone, eyes already moving, the crew never frozen in one spot long enough to matter. But fire and forget burns through the expensive rack fast, and the magazine is thinning, so the crew goes back to the gun and the rockets for the cheap, close targets. The last guided shots stay on the rails for the ones that earn them. 6 down to the cannon. 7 to an APKWS rocket riding the laser. 8 as a drone tries to climb out of the fight and the gunner walks tracers right up into it. Each one a different tool for its own range. A gun for the close knife fight, a 30-grand rocket for the middle distance, a 6-figure missile only for the target that earns it. The crew reads the magazine, the fuel, and the geometry all at once. They never spend $1 more than the target is worth. Capitalism, basically. Then the weather turns. A marine layer thickens as the afternoon wears on. Fine salt and water vapor that scatters laser energy, the same way a laser pointer smears into haze in fog. The beam spreads and weakens. Too much haze and the reflection never makes it back. Too little power and the rocket loses the scent halfway in. But the radar doesn't care about haze. It punches straight through the muck that binds the camera, and the work keeps coming on radar tracks. 9, 10, 11. As a JAGM rides a radar lock through 2 miles of weather no camera could ever see into. This is the whole trick of the night. The reason the Apache owns the dark and the murk both. The camera quits the moment the weather gets ugly. The radar never does. 12 falls to the gun. A 40-round burst at point blank. 13 to the last APKWS on the rails. A 30-grand rocket for a target worth far less. And then there's one. There's the 14th drone, running flat out for the open water, already past the edge of the gun's reach. The gunner swings the camera onto it. The marine layer swallows it whole. Radar reaches for the track, and the contact ducks low, hugging the wave tops where the sea clutter hides it. It slides off the screen. The crew pushes after it toward bingo fuel, the number where you turn back or you don't make it home at all. 12 minutes have burned since first contact. The tanks are down to a sliver. Every second of chase is one stolen from the flight home. And the drone has all the reason in the world to keep running. The crew holds the chase as long as the fuel allows. The radar sweeps the wave tops for a contact that won't show itself. Nothing. The drone doesn't reappear. It's gone. Back out over the Atlantic, low and quiet. The same direction the Langley drones went when nobody could stop them either. 13 or 14. One slipped the net. And the one that slips the net is the one that keeps the crew up at night. Then the net crackles, encrypted and calm. Weapons safe. Exercise complete. There was never an enemy out on that water. The drones were built to fly the exact profiles of the real ones. More than 600 unexplained incursions over American bases since 2022, most still filed under unknown. When the next wave comes off the water, the Apache will already be there, gun warm, rails full, looking exactly where the threat is about to be. If you enjoyed this video, then watch this insane engineering of the helo that carries the president. Bye for now.